Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, April 20th. This is episode 59 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining us. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Another week, another day, another week closer to the draft. It's finally draft week, 4 days away. Cannot wait. Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Green Bay. Big opportunity, of course, for all 32 teams to continue to round out their rosters. Always interesting to see draft risers, draft fallers, all in 4 days. Cannot wait. Lots of draft talk, obviously, already on the show. So finally, nice to see it happen. There's been so many mock drafts, so many debates. Finally get to see it happen live on Thursday night, number one. Today, dive into our mock draft. We'll also get to Aaron Rodgers because he can never escape the news sometimes. So, DiMari, how's it going, man?
Oh yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like you said, it's finally draft week. What a time if you are a fan of all sports, so you can watch your favorite basketball team get torched by a random role player on Wednesday, and watch your team completely botch the draft Thursday through Friday and Saturday. So that's quite interesting. But yeah, draft week is finally here. Like you said, you kind of finally see everything come to fruition. We can see who might end up where, see which mock drafts were accurate, the risers, the fallers. Such a good time. But of course, kind of also like you just said, during all this draft process, Aaron Rodgers has found a way to once again be the face of all sports media. So like we've done basically all year, let's get into Aaron Rodgers once again.
Yeah, and it's funny because here we are again, Rodgers being the main headline around the draft, and he doesn't even have a team. So it's funny because, like, he's not even on a team, still doesn't know what he's doing. I still think he ends up with the Steelers. But he basically says, I could play, could retire. He's, evaluating everything. And in 2 years ago, to almost exactly this day, the Jets traded for Rodgers. So something about Rodgers and just this time of year, figuring out whether he wants to play, whether it's getting traded, whatever. Crazy what 2 years can make a difference. But Rodgers did speak. He was on McAfee. I'll be honest, when I heard that he was going on McAfee, I did not expect the Jets to be the main takeaway. But as a Jet fan, you've got to realize there's truly never a dull moment. I thought actually he was going on McAfee to kind of do what he did with the Jets 2 years ago and announce his decision, whether he was going to play with the Steelers or go and retire, because that's just what he does. That's where he breaks his news over there. So we'll play the clip here. It's 2 minutes long, so a little bit of a longer clip, but here was Rodgers on McAfee basically describing his meeting with the Jets, and we'll break it down on the other side.
You meet with the coach.
We start talking. He runs out of the room. I'm like, that's kind of strange. I was like, then he comes back with the GM. And I'm like, all right. So we sit down in the office. And I think we're going to have this long conversation. I've flown across the country. And 20 seconds in, he goes, literally, I'm talking to the GM about something. And he leans to the edge of his seat and goes, so do you want to play football? And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he said, we're going a different direction at quarterback. And I said, and I was kind of shocked. Now, not shocked because I didn't think that was a possibility. Listen, of course, they want to move on. That's totally fine. But shocked because I just flew across country. You could have told me this on the phone. If we weren't even going to have a conversation, and this is verbatim exactly how it happened. So I said, huh? And he goes, we just want to know how you want it released, the messaging. And I said, verbatim, I don't give a shit about the message. And I said, why? And then he said, I don't want to be up in front of the room saying something and have guys looking back at you.
Interesting.
And I said, what does that even mean? Are you assuming that I would be in the back of the room during a team meeting undermining what you're saying? I said, you don't know me. And he said, you don't know me. And then I said, exactly, which is why I flew across the country to have a face-to-face meeting with you to talk about my experience with the Jets. and to hear your vision for the team. 20 seconds in. What I thought was going to be a couple-hour meeting turned into like a 15-minute meeting, and I walked out of there. But
so at that moment,
that was a strange meeting for sure. There was no me pleading like, "Please have me on the team." No,
I don't know.
I don't want any part of that. It was already a debacle.
So that was Rodgers' ugly breakup. Obviously, I'll say this: I'm just glad it's over. And I'm so annoyed that this even like happened. We've been so far gone from the Rodgers stuff, and then here he comes. He has to come out and say something, open up his mouth. There's a couple of things though I wanted to do take it, and I'll give you your, some of your thoughts as well. Not even just diving into exactly what he said, but Rodgers, and it wasn't exactly in that clip, but he said before that clip, like he did say there that he flew out across the country, but then he said he flew out across the country on his own dime, which I find funny. Like, man, you're really hurting for money right now. Fly across the country and dime. You're the richest player in NFL history. You could take your private jet wherever you want. I thought that was kind of pathetic. Like, on my own dime, feel bad for me. Dude, you could fly wherever the heck you want. You go to ayahuasca retreats every single year. Please give me a break with that on my own dime. Like, you really need the money. And then he also said, and I think this is something that was interesting, when they asked him if he wanted to play, and here's the situation we're in right now with Rodgers, he doesn't know. He said, I'm interested. That's not yes or no. And the whole thought process with Glenn and Muji and the Jets on probably why they didn't want to keep Rodgers is it's pretty clear. And that is, you don't want to just center your team, center your franchise over a 1-year window for a 41 turning 42-year-old quarterback centric team and drag yourself through the mud with this guy. Just imagine if Rodgers right now didn't know what he was doing and the Jets were waiting, and I don't necessarily know if I even buy the notion that he would have played if the Jets wanted him back. Because right there, he said, I'm interested. That's not yes or no. He said it on McAfee yesterday. I'm still open to playing. I might retire. Like, he doesn't know what he wants to do. He never does. So I thought those were just two takeaways. What was your thoughts?
I definitely agree with your second point. I mean, again, 40-year-old quarterback, the injury history, and I know we are a year removed from that, but, it's still something that's going to pop up. It's always going to pop up considering what it was. But to not even give a guaranteed yes or no, you can be interested today and then wake up tomorrow like, hey, I just don't want to play anymore.
Yep.
So it doesn't make sense to me. But the thing I don't necessarily agree with is not even Rodgers' side of it, but Glenn's side of it. Rodgers has his character, his personality. We all know what type of guy Rodgers is. But I mean, we're talking about a 4-time MVP and all the statistics and all the accomplishments of Aaron Rodgers. I think that conversation could have been held over phone instead of you have me fly in regardless of your own dime or not. Again, richest guy in NFL history. So you're probably not hurting for money. But to fly into for 20 seconds to sit down, look me in the face and say, hey, do you want to play? Oh, great. Guess what? We're getting a new quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a bit disrespectful. And at least from my point of view of it, that kind of makes me a little nervous for, you guys, because like, how is Glenn going to go about business moving forward? Because if you're going to do this with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, can you just imagine how everything else is going to be inside, that building? So for Rodgers, I can understand the frustration because, again, this could have been a conversation that we did over the phone. I didn't have to, fly in. I'm trying to get to know you. I'm trying to talk ball. I'm trying to see where we might go in the direction of the franchise. And all you do is ask me if I want to play ball and tell me, oh, great, well, we're hiring. We're just not hiring you. That's kind of insane. And I understand where he's coming from, but messy breakup in general. And I think it was best for both sides to move on. As far as Rodgers, and you could probably agree with this. I think you actually do agree with this. You said it. It was time for that breakup to happen anyways. I think anything moving forward and Rodgers trying to play this year would have been a complete disaster and just completely tarnish, his reputation, tarnish everything that he's accomplished in this league. So I think it's best that he does move on. And if that is in Pittsburgh, that he moves on and goes over there for maybe a year or two, see what he can do. But if not, I know, he's talked about it on his Netflix doc before. he doesn't want to go out a certain type of way. And how these last 2 seasons went, Rodgers does not want that attached to his name. So I don't think he retires.
Yeah.
I think he goes to Pittsburgh, tries to bounce back. But Messi situation all over. It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad all around, obviously. And I agree, the Jets don't look perfect here either. My only thing would, and maybe this is just how the whole Rodgers thing played out. There could be part of it where he is over exaggerating.
Yeah.
Like, were they really in there for 20 seconds or was it a 10, 15 minute meeting? It obviously wasn't a couple hours. And yeah, the Jets could have handled it differently. My only thing would be just knowing Rodgers and the person that he is. If the Jets called him over phone, he would have then said, oh, it's disrespectful that they didn't have me in person to talk to me face to face. And I guess the only way the Jets could have avoided that is they could have called him over the phone and said, look, we're going to move on, but if you want to, we can meet in person and we can discuss how we're going to release you, the messaging, all that stuff. I think, too, the Jets also wanted to know whether or not he was going to play or retire, because if he was going to retire, they would probably just let him announce that on his own and not put out a statement like releasing him and then have Rodgers retire. They probably would have just kept him and then had him announce his retirement whenever he felt was necessary. So it is what it is. I think Glenn, he wants players that are 1 of 53. That's what he's talked about a lot. He doesn't want any player above the rest. And Rodgers, whether it's all him or not, some of it is him, the way he attracts media and attracts attention. Some of it's not, because he's just a polarizing figure that he can't always control what the media and other people say about him. He comes with a lot of baggage. And I just don't think Glenn and Muji, first-year guys, wanted that. They wanted, obviously, you go with Fields, a little bit higher upside, and a guy that isn't going to be talked about every single day on, like the Jets talk about moving in silence and going under the radar. Fields is going to be the hot topic in New York every single day. If Rodgers was here, he would be. And then that's part of it as well. I guess my only thing, and maybe this is just 2 years of Rodgers is what it does to me. The disrespected, okay, yeah, if it was a 20-second meeting, fine. But I don't really know how he could say he felt disrespected when the last 2 years the Jets catered everything to him. Everything Rodgers wanted, the Jets did. They got him Randall Cobb. They got him Nathaniel Hackett. They got him Alan Lazard. They got him Billy Turner, who was terrible. They gave him all of his Green Bay friends. They let him run the offense. And a lot of people are forgetting, too, this is a team that traded draft picks for Devontae Adams when they were 2-4. I mean, that's pathetic. They should have never made that move. They did, because Rodgers wanted it to happen. They did everything to cater to Aaron Rodgers. He ran the show the last 2 years. So to say you really disrespected, like, I don't know. I mean, they kind of did everything for you the last 2 years. I maybe the meeting, but as a whole, the Jets did everything. They catered everything to you. You were like the glorious prince. Here he comes. This is Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, and it blew up. So I don't know. I think this just proves why they needed to move on. It was a predetermined. They already knew they were going to move on. Rodgers clearly doesn't love this coaching staff, doesn't love this general manager. He won't even address the two guys by name, which is something. Obviously, I think that shows his lack of respect in those two guys. So it is what it is, I guess. Rodgers is gone.
I did not look at it from that side of it. They really did everything Aaron Rodgers wanted. Single. I mean, if Rodgers wanted to fly in on a helicopter to MetLife, they probably would have done it. It just didn't work out. Yeah. It just didn't work out. And again, I can see where, you probably say you probably just changed my opinion on everything. I can see how the meeting was, disrespectful to his eye. But like you made a good point, knowing how Rodgers is, the phone call would have been, oh, you didn't have the decency to meet me in person. Yeah. But I mean, they did everything.
And look, and you could frame it right, like you said, and then I mentioned that as well. They could have called him and he said disrespectful. You want to go down the route too of, the Jets could have called, and then we're just really breaking down how you're telling somebody you're going to get fired, essentially, at this point. Is like, They could have called him and said, maybe this would have been the better approach. Hey, we're going to move on. If you want to meet in person and discuss the situation or discuss how you want to be released, all that, we can. So then it gave him the option to, but who knows? Rodgers could have went on McAfee, said they called to me 10 seconds. I was going to say, can we talk? And Glenn hung up. Like, for all we know, that's what Rodgers could have said. So who knows? They could have been in there for an hour and Rodgers could have said it's 20 seconds. And Glenn won't say anything because I'm sure they're going to ask him this, and he's going to say, I'm only talking about players that are on this roster, and he'll officially put it to bed. So I will say this. At the end there, when Rodgers said, it was already a debacle, Rodgers wasn't the main problem, but, dude, you certainly were not a solution. He acted like, such a debacle. Like, everything around him was bad. He was perfect. You're far from that. Far from that.
Yeah, I don't know. The way he
watched that Cardinals game, you sucked in multiple games last year. You weren't the main problem. Coaching, defense, kicker. Believe me, I roster construction. Mike Williams was a failed free agent signing. Tyron Smith was a failed free agent signing. So you weren't the main issue. That's why they blew that whole thing up. But you certainly weren't a solution. So the whole, it was a debacle, acting like everything else around him was breaking. It's just not true.
He was awful. He was terrible. So I mean, no reason. If you put up MVP numbers and then everything just didn't go as planned, then okay, get it. You really were glorified Zach Wilson last season. Let's relax. Let's just relax, just a little bit.
And everybody wants to say like, look at his final 6 games. Okay, fine.
When it didn't matter, right?
Yeah, when it didn't matter. And I get you play well, you play who's on your schedule, all that stuff. Right? I always say win's a win, loss is a loss. Everybody that always says, you played this bad team or whatever. But look at Rodgers' numbers down the stretch. Yes, the final 6 games you want to look and say, they were good. He also did have that Bills game mixed in where going on the road against Buffalo, it's a tough game. If we brought Rodgers here to win the division, win those games, he took himself out. Tyrod Taylor was playing late in that game. And in the other games, Jacksonville, they're horrible. Their defense stinks. They had one of the worst secondaries in football.
That's another one.
Yep. Miami, where their defense was horrible. You also played Miami the last week of the season with Tyler Huntley out there, and they gave up. They weren't playing for anything. So, and how many of those final 6 games were wins as well? I'll throw that out there. They won 2 games, 2-4 in their final 6. Rodgers wasn't the biggest reason for all those losses, but come on, I was pumped. There's so many Jet fans like, look at the final 6 games, acting like he was some elite quarterback against this elite talent. No, not the case. Where was? I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to rehash the 2024 Jets, but it's a new day. I think it shows Glenn's running a tight ship. If you're not on board, you're out. If you're on board, you're in. Like, he's not taking anybody's BS, essentially. They've run a very quiet offseason. They haven't made any of their members free agents available. The only player that has spoken, or a couple players that have spoken, was Justin Fields, and that's CBA. He had to speak at the beginning of offseason workouts, which the Jets have started. They started a week earlier because of the new coach. So Muji will have a press conference tomorrow pre-draft, but they've barely spoke. It was their introductory press conference. They're at the NFL owners meetings. Fields spoke. Now Muji speaking again. They've run a very tight ship. That's tough to do in this market. We'll see. At the end of the day, they got to win. That's all that matters. They got to go out and win. Now, finally, Rodgers' first ballot Hall of Famer. You think so?
I think so.
I
think so. I don't need to go over the career awards and highlights, but 100% has to be first ballot Hall of Famer / part-time owner of the Dallas Cowboys. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because you just look at Rodgers and like we're coming off of the whole Eli thing this year, right? Where everybody's like, Eli in, Eli out. In my opinion, Rodgers' career, Eli's career. Like,
Rodgers.
Who do you?
Hold on. I answered it. I might have.
It's tough,
actually, I'm going to stick. I'm going to stick with it.
This was almost the debate we had. Remember, right? The whole Super Bowl thing and all that stuff. Like Rodgers individually, 4 MVPs, does have that Super Bowl. That's tough to beat. Back-to-back MVPs as well. Got to throw that into the equation. Not easy to do.
I think that 2020 MVP probably was the most impressive one, just considering how the year before was, and then he just completely went
like
prime Rodgers. It was
Yeah. It felt like he was on his way out. And it felt like his time, not even just with the Packers, but it almost felt like his time in the NFL in general was maybe running out. And then you go out and what was it, 2020, 48, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe. The year before, they got to the title game, but regular season wise, I believe it was only like 26 touchdowns, I think, from him, which for his standards is down.
What he did this year, basically almost.
Basically what he did this year, yeah. Minus the interceptions. He only had 4 in 2019. This year he had 11. 48 then 37. And to be fair, going back to his Green Bay days, a lot of those teams, the defenses weren't good. Like the defenses blew up in the playoffs. So it wasn't all on Rodgers. Like, you want to rehash the postseason stuff, but it is what it is. It's over. I will say this. Jets have the Steelers on the schedule, and they play them at home. So, in my opinion, if Rodgers makes his decision by, like May 20th when the schedule usually comes out, around there, if Rodgers is back Rodgers makes his decision by May 20th, I think it'll be Jets Steelers Monday Night Football to open it up.
I mean, if you look at the storyline, it has to be Jets Steelers, just two organizations as it is. Fields kind of getting the payback, Rodgers kind of getting the payback. 100%.
That's just, and I know we'll get to our mock draft and stuff, and want to spend some good time on that, but just, I don't know. Glenn is a no-nonsense guy. That's how he's come off. And I've liked how Glenn has come off so far. Again, for me, he's got to win. I'm not crowning Glenn yet. I don't think Jets fans should crown Glenn yet. But the early signs are you like what you see. I just find Tomlin as that kind of guy as well. Like, I don't know. I just feel like Rodgers and Tomlin, I just don't see it working, right? It feels like Rodgers is a do it my way type of guy, and Tomlin is a do it my way. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm off. Maybe they'll work well, and they obviously had a meeting, and there still is interest from both sides. I don't know.
After watching Pittsburgh on Hard Knocks, the AFC North version of it, Tomlin is the type of guy where it's non-nonsense, but he's a player's coach at the same time. If that makes sense. So you'll see him interacting with guys, kind of in practice, and basically, all right, let's go out here and have a great day. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Tomlin's not going to joke with you. He's not going to do that type of stuff. Like, he is straight business. And Aaron Rodgers, on the other case, like you said, is a guy that wants everything his way, wants certain things to be ran a certain way. I don't think Mike Tomlin is going for that. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, look at, respectfully, disrespectfully at the same time, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm going to be a little arrogant. I'm like, hey, look what I have accomplished since I've been here with what I've had. You're not coming over here to this organization, especially with its history and, how things are ran. You are not coming over to my organization thinking you're about to move these chess pieces, because Tomlin is one of those. It's one of 53. Like, I don't care if you're Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Smith, Aaron Jones. It's going to be the way I want things done. And if you don't like it, you get out of here. So unless Rodgers can put that pride to the side and kind of take a back seat to Tomlin and, guess the phrase to say is buy into the Steeler way, it's just not going to work out. And it's going to be another organization where I know you're familiar with that Grim Reaper meme, and it's just going to feel like another one of those with Aaron Rodgers knocking on that door. So I kind of hope he doesn't do that to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I just hope it's 2038. I hope we're not talking about Jordan Love in the same situation with the Jets, because it's happening. Favre, Rodgers, Love. It's happening. I think somebody lined it up. It's Love would come here in 2038. I think it is. So get ready for actually 2 years. He'll have 2 years. Well, maybe only 1 year. Either way, he'll get hurt because Favre had the shoulder injury. Rodgers had the Achilles. So he'll get hurt somehow. Maybe come back for another year, whatever. But it will blow up. So you think Love might have to turn into the Grim Reaper?
If history repeats itself, then Jordan Love, it's probably going to happen.
I wonder who's going to be the quarterback that takes over for Love. Don't even know.
We're talking about 2038. That is
some kid in what, like second grade, first grade?
Yeah, like I don't.
Maybe not even. No, they probably not even born because it's 2025. No, yeah, because that's 13 years. So they got to be 7, 6 right now.
Seven, 6, maybe even 8, depending on you want to get an old rookie. So
2021.
I don't know. How old is Drew Brees' kids? So, it's a possibility just to throw it out. Hey, Philip Rivers has like 14 of them. Maybe we get another Rivers in the league.
One of them, right?
Yeah, maybe another.
I feel like
Rivers
if none of them make the league, that's a big fail on Philip Rivers' part.
Absolutely. There's no way you swing 0 for 14. At some point,
one of them's got to make the league.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's the Rodgers stuff. We can now move on to some draft stuff here. So I'll throw it up on the screen. Mock draft simulator. We'll go through all 32 picks, maybe some trades, or we could just keep it simple and kind of just roll through the picks. Could discuss some possible trades though. So I'll fire it up here. I think first pick, we all know who's it going to be. Cam Ward to Tennessee.
Cam Ward, welcome to Tennessee.
I guess
so where it gets interesting.
Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. We'll see. This is where it gets interesting. I don't think Shedeur is going to at this point. No. He's kind of just his stock seems to be falling. It just doesn't seem like Cleveland's going to go in that direction. So you're looking at Hunter or Abdul Carter most likely in this spot. I personally think it'll be Hunter. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, a couple days ago, compared him to like Ohtani playing both sides of the ball. The biggest question with Hunter has been how teams are going to use him. Like, you play him as a corner, and then how do you put him into some offensive packages? And then you've heard what he said, he's going to retire if he doesn't play both sides of the ball. So kind of
something
interesting
like that.
Dynamic. I guess what direction do you see Cleveland in? If Cleveland didn't extend Myles Garrett, I would have 100% said Abdul Carter's the pick. They could still go Abdul Carter because he's arguably the second or best player in this draft. I think they'll go Hunter. What are your thoughts?
It's so tough considering what they do need. It says Hunter, but if you want to pair Carter and Garrett together, I mean, you obviously go Carter, but I just feel like there will be Molotovs and signs outside of Cleveland headquarters if they do pass up on Hunter. So also, I just can't see him in a Browns uniform. Like, I can see Cam Ward suiting up for Tennessee. I cannot see Travis Hunter respectfully, disgusting brown and orange. And I know my friend Jerry, who's a Cleveland fan, does watch us every time we post. I'm sorry, Jerry. Those colors are disgusting. I can't see Travis Hunter in them. But I think they go Travis Hunter. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think they go Hunter. See how they use him. It seems like corner and then receiver. I mean, that feels like some receiver packages. I'm not going to play every single snap both sides of the ball. So, but Hunter to Cleveland. So, first two picks, Ward and Travis Hunter. Here, I feel like it's Abdul Carter. I think that's pretty clear. Yeah. Giants get another pass rusher. You look at the Giants right now, it's a team where you don't have your future quarterback most likely. Maybe they trade back into the first and get Shedeur or take a Jackson Dart on day 2, somebody like that, and take a chance. But I think the Giants, their philosophy is they built up a lot of that defense. They got Javon Holland, obviously picked up some corner help. You already have Thibodeau. You have Burns. So you have 2 solid edge rushers already. Thibodeau has been a little underwhelming. He's not that elite pass rusher we thought he was going to be coming out of Oregon, 5th overall pick, in 2022, but still a solid piece. But you get Abdul Carter. And I think the Giants, their identity is going to try and be sort of what Pittsburgh kind of has done like last year with Russ, right? Good defense, hope like build up a solid defense and have your offense just be competent, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If you would
Yeah.
would agree with that, I think get as many pass rushers, get a guy that can get to the quarterback every single time he's out there. Would also open up opportunities for Burns and Thibodeau because he's going to take attention away from those guys, and then hope that your offense can just muster up some sort of competence, try and win games, because the Giants are in that funny spot where this regime's got to win or else they're out.
Yeah, and I think we both agree on Carter too, but just from the basic side of it, we're talking about you're in a division with three of the, I don't know if I want to say best, because Jaden Daniels is some recency bias. I do think he's very good, but you are in a division with three very good quarterbacks, three very high power offenses. And your offense doesn't match up. So how do you balance that out? You get a good defense that can slow down those offenses. So I think you have to go Carter, and like you just mentioned, who you'll be pairing up with. Maybe he gets the most out of the other guys, and the guys also benefit from Carter being there. And history knows a guy who wears number 11 at Penn State usually works out pretty freaking well in the NFL. So yeah, you go Carter with 3 and just see what he can bring over to your team.
Yeah, I agree. Carter at 3 here feels like it's the most realistic. It feels like that's what's going to happen. You're going to see Carter or Ward, Hunter, Abdul Carter, your first 3. This is where things can get interesting. Your obvious top 3 go in whatever order. Ward, maybe it's Carter going 2, then Hunter. Either way, those are going to be the first 3 guys. This is where things get interesting. For New England, could use some wide receiver help, continue to build around Drake May. You obviously brought in Diggs. You want to get more help. Could look at a Tet McMillan in that spot. I think Will Campbell here is pretty realistic as well. Mike Vrabel's talked a lot about Will Campbell. Seems like he likes him. My biggest question with Campbell is he has shorter arms. Feels like when you watch him on tape and you just kind of listen to some experts and stuff like that around the league, feels like he's probably going to eventually move into a guard position, not probably a future left tackle. But for New England, this is a team that's got multiple holes up front. They can't go wrong with a Will Campbell here where can play tackle. If not, slide him into guard. They need a ton of help. How do you see them approaching this pick? I think it'll be Will Campbell. I could see Tet McMillan. I don't see Genty here. I just don't.
No.
Anybody
best
else?
Player being McMillan. You want to go McMillan. Obviously, pair him with Diggs. Try to continue to help the other guys grow and kind of gel, but you're always going to want to protect your young quarterback. So I think you go Campbell with this pick.
Yeah. I could also see a world where they go Membu.
Yeah, me too.
Which Membu, in my opinion, is the better tackle prospect than Campbell.
Somebody call it a reach, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? Campbell, McMillan.
I say you go Campbell.
All right, we'll go Will Campbell. So Will Campbell at 4. 5, I think to me it's going to be Mason Graham.
I agree.
But what are your thoughts? Yeah. I guess you could throw McMillan into this mix as well. I know we were talking about this a little bit off air. Get some help next to Brian Thomas Jr. Continue to build around Trevor. Give Liam Cohen another weapon as well to use in that offense. But I don't know. It just feels like it's going to be Mason Graham.
You go Graham here.
He had the visit there. They need some help there. So I think it'll be Graham. All right. This feels like I don't think Shedeur is going here, personally. No. There has been some that still think maybe they take a chance on a quarterback and have him sit. I don't see it happening. I think this is where Genty goes, personally. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we go from blue turf and potatoes to Las Vegas Strip and nightclubs. I think Ashton Genty is going to the Raiders.
Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. My AirPod died. I can hear you now.
Yeah,
So, do you mind repeating that? Sorry.
So yeah, from just blue turf and potatoes to the strip and nightclubs, Genty is a Raider. I think
Yeah.
he lands with the Raiders. Sick.
Yeah, I agree. I think Genty goes to the Raiders. I don't really see anybody else. They need desperately need running back help. You give them Genty, you have Bowers. Jacoby Myers is solid. He's
Solid.
serviceable.
Trey Tucker
Gino,
solid.
you help. You bring in Pete Carroll. I agree. I go Genty. You hear their GM, what John Spytek talk about. They asked him about Ashton Genty, and Pete Carroll was like, "Don't tell him too much" or whatever. Kind of
Yeah.
just basically saying, "Yeah, we're
Yeah.
taking him." So I agree. I like Genty here. I don't see like a team trading up for Genty. I think the Raiders will be in a pretty good spot here to take him. So go Genty. So the Jets now. It's funny, they still have quarterback as a need. I think they'll address that on day 2 or 3. They're not taking a quarterback here. Everything Muji and Glenn have talked about, they like Fields a lot. For the Jets, I think it'll be Warren or Membu. Betting odds right now have Membu. I can get behind both picks. You want to shore up the offensive line, take a right tackle. Membu's very athletic, does some good things, both run protection, pass protection, graded out really well last year. I like Membu a lot. You have your 2 bookend tackles, ideally with Membu and Olu for the next 10 to 15 years in a perfect world. That's a good starting point to build up the trenches. I also understand the argument of Warren. I personally prefer Warren just a little bit more, just because of the fact that our tight end room right now is horrendous. And I could also see a world where the Jets trade back, and I wouldn't be totally mad at that. They wanted to move back. Maybe a team, we'll see how it all plays out. Does a team like New Orleans want to move up 2 spots? Does a team like Pittsburgh, let's say Rodgers, let's say they don't believe Rodgers is going there. Like, do they get desperate and move all the way up for, let's say, a Shadur? Maybe. Does a team like Denver want to move up? Whatever. There could be a couple different teams, maybe San Fran. So the Jets could move back, but I think it will be Membu. What I would do is Tyler Warren. They haven't had a legitimate tight end since Dustin Keller, going back to the Sanchez Rex days. I think they should take Warren, get a weapon, and then target somebody like an Ozzie Trapilo on day 2 or day 3. What are your thoughts?
This is tough. I mean, you consider, let's use Aaron Glenn, consider what he had over with Detroit. Obviously, you want a very tight end, Sam Laporta-like, who's very efficient in many ways.
Yeah.
But you also need quarterback protection. You need somebody that can run and pass block. We've seen as much with Jared Goff, as much they like to run play action.
Yep.
We don't even need to go into detail about how effective they were running the ball. So I feel like neither one of these picks are a bad answer. But if I'm the Jets, I mean, you just mentioned it perfectly. Tight end play has been terrible. And I know I didn't do too well last year, and they called me to play tight end at Miami game for the last game of the week. So, I mean, I think here you go at Warren. I think you get Fields another weapon, hopefully still open up that offense for Wilson, and you can throw the ball pretty well. You can also run the ball pretty well. So, yeah, you go Warren.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll say this too about Warren. The Lions under Ben Johnson and Tanner Engstrom, of course, coming over from there, the offensive coordinator, not only does Blue Porter obviously a big threat in the passing game, but they love their tight ends to run block well. They also love their receivers to run block well. Big reason for Gibbs and Montgomery and their success. Tyler Warren's one of those guys that very good pass catcher, right? Over, 1,000 yards last year, all led the Big Ten, all career highs, but also a guy that can run block. And that's something that the Jets need to improve on. Last year, their tight end blocking was horrible. Jeremy Ruckert regressed in that area. Felt like he was a guy that was kind of on the come up from a run blocking perspective. Was not last year, regressed. Warren, I think I was reading, just breaking down some of his numbers, was above the 50th percentile, so above average in positively graded run blocking plays. Has talked about modeling a game off of John Riggins. Just a physical guy that can kind of play in line, can play the slot, this tight end class is good balance. Like there's some guys that are just bigger slots, and there's some guys that are more that inline can do both. So we'll go Warren here. I agree. All right. So top 7 complete. Panthers. Interesting. What are your thoughts on Carolina?
Does that say receiver, edge, and defensive back? I'm assuming.
Yes.
I think you go. I think you go McMillan here. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Leggett takes another step. Obviously, we've seen Bryce Young look a lot better towards the end of the season. So if you want to continue to help Bryce Young out and continue to get the most out of Young and Leggett and Jatavion Sanders, who also we didn't really hear too much of last year, I think you go McMillan.
Yeah. I think you go McMillan as well. I could see a world where maybe they go Mike Green out of Marshall.
Yeah.
They do need some pass rushing help. You get a guy that had, I forget right off the top of my head, 17 sacks last year. Incredible pass rushing numbers. I think McMillan here goes here as well. What are the chances Matthew Goldman kind of jumps here and Panthers take him at 8?
I mean, we talked about it off air. I mean, Golden has been getting a lot of love. And I mean, like I told you, I watched a lot of Texas football. I don't know, considering both guys, but I mean, he's moving up the board for a reason, right? So it wouldn't shock me, but I think you have to go McMillan with this pick.
Yeah, I think so too. I think McMillan feels like every year it feels like there is one or two guys that people just start to get down on. And McMillan kind of feels like one of those guys. A little bit of, I guess, draft fatigue talking about them so much. All right. Saints. Interesting spot for the Saints. Do you go quarterback here?
Yeah, I was gonna say let's switch it up. I've seen a lot of Jackson Dart. We've talked about a lot of Jackson Dart. Oh, Shador's still on the board though.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
I don't know. I think Shador is going to go either New Orleans or I think Pittsburgh. If he really falls, I could see Pittsburgh taking a chance on him.
Where's Pittsburgh? What, 21? I think you go Shador here. Yeah.
I think so too.
Which interesting.
They need
we
wide
talked
receiver
about
help.
this before.
What was that?
We talked about this before. Shador possibly dropping to 9, and then the day after, I was at work, ESPN on the TV, and they were mentioning Shador possibly dropping to 9. So we might have had the script beforehand, but they do need a receiver. But I think you go Shador here. You get your
I think they go.
Guy.
I think you go Shador as well. If Derek Carr doesn't get hurt, I don't think that's the pick. I think they probably target maybe a day 2 option, but you get Shador and you have him and Rattler compete, and there's a pretty good chance Shador can win that battle, essentially, if Carr really does miss the whole year. So we'll go Shador here. So Shador does end up going in the top 10. And there's a world where the Saints pass up on him, take a wide receiver. Maybe that's a Matthew Goldman spot, right? The guy blazing speed. We're talking about off air, kind of gives you the Garrett Wilson vibes a little bit. Maybe they go him. I could see that being the case. And then Shador falls, but feels like kind of the safe pick. Get some quarterback insurance. Shador in New Orleans, I don't think many people would have predicted that at the beginning of this.
No.
But here we are. All right. Bears on the clock. I think if Gentry would the fall, I think the Bears probably take him in this spot. But obviously he doesn't fall. Defensive line, Walter Nolan. I'm seeing how far. Kenneth Grant's still there. Derek Harmon I like, but he's pretty far down. Derek Harmon I like a lot out of Oregon as defensive line help. PFF doesn't love him as much. I think Derek Harmon has a chance of going in the first round. Maybe not this high. You get safety help. You could go Malachi Starks here. Well, what are your thoughts?
I was thinking Starks. We know how the Chicago team is as far as secondary play, I think they go Starks.
Yeah. I think we'll go Starks as well. Get some help in the secondary. Running back wise for Chicago, feels like probably pick up a day 2 option.
Yeah, still a lot of talent. I mean, Marion Hamptons, Caleb Johnson. It's still quite some names.
Yeah. All right, this is interesting for San Fran. I could see actually a world where San Fran would trade up. They've got some holes. You could go tackle here. You could get some help on the defensive line. I think there's a world where if like Mason Graham, let's say, would fall past Jacksonville and fall past the Raiders, and he's there at 7 for the Jets. The Jets, maybe they just take Graham, but they could move out and move up. They need to reinforce that defensive line a little bit. They could also use some tackle help, some help in the secondary. You can go many different directions here. Membu's still on the board. What are you thinking? Right before the Cowboys.
That's so tough. I mean, I've seen quite a few with like Barron or Johnson landing there to get them some corner help, but I think they go. This is tough.
They do need corner help.
Man,
their corners right now are what? Lenore, and nickel.
Should be still Ward.
Yeah, Ward.
But you lose Hufanga, which I know played safety, but still, maybe you move a guy around, which is another reason why I think if Stark doesn't go to Chicago, he possibly could go to San Fran.
Yeah. Barron's rose up draft ranks. In the beginning of all this, it felt like Will Johnson was the consensus number 1.
It was always Will Johnson. Now it's Barron. Something about these Texas guys, they've definitely worked their way up.
Definitely. We could see a world where Barron and Golden are 2 top 11 picks.
We could. Because I hate to be the guy to just best player on the board. That's where he instantly lands. But like Barron is a legit landing spot. Oh, San Fran's a legit landing spot for Barron. Let's go Barron. Let's go with that.
Yeah, we'll go Barron. All right, the floor is yours. Cowboys are up.
Gotta go receiver. Let's go receiver.
I agree. Who do you like out of those 3? I personally like Ibuka the most. But I know you like Luther Burden a lot. Obviously, Matthew Goldman's rising up the ranks. It's your call.
Yeah, that is so tough. I mean, Golden has gotten a lot of love, but I mean, Burden was the consensus number 1 receiver for basically the whole entire season. Felt like then McMillan worked his way up. Now after the combine, we're talking about Golden, but I mean, I personally would pair Burden and CeeDee Lamb together, so I say Dallas takes Burden at 12.
All right, Luther Burden is the pick. Miami. Another team here, similar to kind of San Fran. You can go corner help, defensive line help, tackle help. Hear the Jalen Ramsey stuff? Feels like they can get even weaker. Yeah.
If they move on from Jalen Ramsey, I can see them going potentially Will Johnson.
Yeah.
If Ramsey is not moved, I can see them going Membu.
See Ramsey as like a draft day trade?
Yes. And I think the Raiders were a team that I've seen as a potential spot. I think it was the Raiders. So, I mean, do we see a swap there? Maybe Miami gets all the way up to that Raiders spot.
Move up to 6 and take like maybe a tackle. Like if, let's say Campbell's there, or let's say Mason Graham falls past Jacksonville and they want to get defensive line help, they could move up and Ramsey could be in that. It's possible. I guess it all depends just from the Raiders' perspective how in love they are with like a Genti.
But I think you go Membu with this pick. Let's say Ramsey does not get moved day 1. I think you go Membu.
Membu, all right.
No one taking a linebacker yet. I'm quite interested if Atlanta might take I know I'm going a pick ahead, but
I personally like Atlanta a lot.
Go Campbell.
Yeah. I like Atlanta a lot for Jalen Walker.
Yeah, Walker or Campbell. One of the two I
Yeah.
can see. But if we're talking the Colts now,
Colts.
I
I
don't.
could see now if the Jets don't take Warren, and most likely Warren would then fall to 14. And I could see the Colts, if they're in love with Warren, moving up. I could see a spot here where they go after Colston Loveland out of Michigan. More of your, maybe this is a little high, but more of your bigger slot receiving guy. Doesn't provide much as a blocker, but much more like receiving upside, and maybe puts on a little bit more NFL size, can become a better blocker. But you could go Loveland out of Michigan. Some people feel he's the best receiver or most receiving upside in this class. Warren's the best all around. Loveland probably the best receiving upside. Could go linebacker. Could go edge. Mike Green's still on the board. I mean, his numbers are just crazy. I know some people will knock him because it was at Marshall. It's not a big school, but 17 sacks is 17 sacks.
That's probably more impressive because Marshall doesn't get as
Yeah.
much love as an Ohio State or somewhere like that. I don't like Loveland here, if I'm being honest. I mean, I know the 40 time didn't look great, but if I wanted a receiving tight end, I'm going Harold Fanning out of Bowling Green. A lot of fans probably won't be too happy with that. For the Colts, I mean, though, who is their tight end?
Nobody. It's Mo Alley Cox is what, a free agent, I think.
I think I'm going to let you draft for the Colts here because I don't know what direction to go. Because you could go Campbell, you could go Loveland, could beef up the offensive line. This is a tough one.
Could go safety too. Colts have some needs.
A lot. Man. Quarterback being one that no one wants to talk about, but I also did not have Matthew Golden dropping this far. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Just looking at Atlanta, like that's
tempting. Let's take a linebacker. I don't know. Part of me want to just take. Let's see. Part of me wants to take. Maybe this might be a reach. Let's go Loveland. Why not?
Yeah, I'm not too mad at that.
This might be a reach, but they need a tight end. We'll go Loveland. All right. I think this will be Jalen Walker. There's been some rumblings about Atlanta moving up for whoops, that's not linebacker. There's been some rumblings of Atlanta moving up for Walker. Actually with the Jets even at 7. I think it'll be Jalen Walker. You could go Jahad Campbell as well. Could go Matthew Golden.
I think you go Walker here.
All right.
Atlanta's not really hurting for receiver too much. I mean, I like what they have weapons wise. Had a very good year from Darnell Mooney this past year. You know, Ray McLeod stepped up. Still Drake London, of course. I think you beef up that defense that looked very terrible at times.
Yeah. I agree. New defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich.
Oh.
Jets interim coach legend right there. All right. Cardinals defensive line help. Feels like this could be a spot for Walter Nolan. Get some help in the secondary. Their defensive line last year could not get home at all.
Yeah.
Not bad against the run, but couldn't get home from a sacks perspective. Pressures just couldn't get home. I think this is a good defensive line spot for them. You could go Nolan. I've talked a little bit about Derek Harmon already. You want to go I personally think Harmon's better than both of Tyleik Williams and Omar Norman Lott. I think Tyleik Williams is probably going to be an early day too. Very good against the run. Could go Kenneth Grant here. Another Michigan alongside Mason Graham. I think you'll probably might see back-to-back defensive line help here, but what do you think?
Yeah. I feel like whichever one doesn't go goes to Cincinnati. So
Yeah.
let's go with Nolan. It's kind of surprising that he is even available at 16, considering some of
Yeah.
the mocks that I've seen. But go Nolan there, and I mean a little ahead of ourselves. I think we go right back
Feels like
to
you've
it
got to.
with Cincy.
Yeah. They've got to go. They have got to go defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Don't even touch the offense. If you have, I mean, we say 17 picks, all 17, all 17 better be on a defensive player. That defense was atrocious to watch.
Yeah, and you just, you keep your main receivers obviously around T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I mean, there's no. They could probably even use some help too in the secondary.
Yeah.
Probably not right here, but
yeah, you go Grant.
Yeah, Grant. I'll go Grant. All right, Seahawks are interesting. Every year they need offensive line help. They have not done a very good job building up that offensive line. Every year they're near the top of the league in sacks allowed. Interior offensive line guys, none of I don't know if you love the idea of taking an interior offensive lineman this early. Tate Ratledge I like, but I think he's a day 2. I don't think Tate Ratledge is day 1. Out of Georgia. Could go edge. Mike Green. Feels like he's got to go in the top 20, right? Or Tampa. It feels like Mike Green's probably going to go in one of these next 2 picks.
Looking ahead, I have Mike Green going to Tampa at 19. I think you want to protect Sam Darnold, but the names don't.
I like Ratledge a lot.
You.
I just don't know if I love him in the first round.
With Seattle reach, though, considering they do want to protect their quarterback.
They could. It's certainly possible. I'm trying to see who else is, let's see. What are any other good edges on the board here?
James
Shamar Stewart's an athletic freak.
Stewart. Yeah.
He's put on his some of his combine measurables are ridiculous.
Gary,
They're like Myles Gary, yeah, exactly. But he didn't put on much production at all.
Yeah. Looking at just a few here, if you go edge here, I would probably say James Pierce. But I don't know what Seattle wants to do.
They could also go Kelvin Banks out of Texas, who is a tackle but can play inside, can play guard, can play right tackle, can play left tackle. I like Banks over Josh Simmons just because Banks is a little bit more versatile.
I like that pick for Seattle at 18. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's a good one.
Let's go Banks. All right.
Green right here.
Green. Feels like running back here.
Yeah. I think we
Hampton
get back to back.
Hampton and Amarion Hampton has drawn some comparisons to Genty. And I don't know if it's just people just saying it. Hampton's really good. Genty's obviously a lot better, but you have Bo Nix. You've got some pieces around him and Sutton and guys like that. You got to get running back help there. They have nobody.
Go before Scatterbo. Who's under Scatterbo? Sampson, Johnson, Henderson, Jeffings. You probably go
Henderson. I like.
This running back class is so deep. DJ Giddens is so good and just not talked about.
Too.
This running back class is very deep. Jaden Blue, speed guy, ETN. After ETN, I kind of see a drop off. I do like Mullins and Smith as well.
The Rutgers product.
Also another good one. Jarquez Hunter. I'm not too big on. I think you go Hampton here.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I think you go another running back.
Yeah, could you see a world if Vegas passes up on Genti, Denver would to trade up?
Ooh, that's a great question.
I think it's possible.
It's a possibility.
Um, yeah. All
This
right,
is
Pittsburgh here.
kind of insane. I think they take running back. They lost
Yeah,
Najee Harris.
Najee Harris. Not that he was. Do you see Dart here?
I could see Dart there. I could. There's a lot. You can get a great back in day 2. Let's go Jackson Dart here.
All right. Throw in a dart throw. Why not, right?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Let's
All
go
right,
Dart.
Jackson Dart to the Steelers. I'll be honest. That just screams Kenny Pickett. And I like Dart,
Yeah,
but that just
100%.
screams
No.
Kenny Pickett.
Okay.
Late day 1 in the 20s. Yeah. Anyway, all right. We'll go Jackson Dart. Chargers here.
I think they go receiver.
Yeah, I think you got to get receiver help. Can't go wrong with either of these.
Whoever doesn't go to the Chargers goes to Green Bay.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let's see. I mean, Mike Williams is back, if I'm correct.
Yep.
You have McConkey in your slot, who's kind of your do-it-all guy. But Justin Herbert in that arm, you get some speed, someone that can definitely stretch the field. I think you go Matthew Golden here.
Yeah. They still got Quentin Johnson too. Not that matters. Yeah, Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden,
that
right,
matters.
has rose up draft ranks. But yeah, let's throw him. We'll throw him 22.
For us to have him at 22,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
I think it's probably
Egbuka
realistic
here.
though.
Yeah.
All right, Ibuka here.
Yeah.
This is a spot where I potentially could see Derek Harmon going if they want to get defensive line help from Minnesota. Could use a DB as well. Could use a running back.
I think everyone else is a day 2 at this point for running back.
Yeah,
So it would kind of be
agree.
a reach. Wow. A lot of these guys falling kind of crazy. All right, what are you thinking?
Let me see. D-line. I like Harmon as a late day 1. If they want to get some interior help.
Yeah, why not?
All right, we'll go Derek Harmon.
Houston. I think you go receiver.
Yeah. This is tough though. None of these, to me, these are all day 2.
I really like Jaden Higgins a lot.
I like Higgins.
I've talked about him before.
I'm hoping that he falls day 2 to the Jets.
Who else are we looking at after Higgins though?
Alec I.E. Manners, okay. Jack Besh, I like.
Yeah.
Kyle Williams has rose up draft boards. He's an intriguing option, deep threat, vertical guy. He's played, I think 2 seasons at Washington State the last 2 years spent there. He's rose up draft boards. He's a guy that was on day 3, has now people talking about him day 2 and now early day 2. I think Williams will fall through the first, obviously, but I like him a lot.
There's something I don't know about Trey Harris. I'm kind of low.
Yeah. Jalen Noel, I like him. He's solid. Restrepo. Where's our guy right here? Where is he? Nick Nash. There he is. Sleeper. I'm telling you. Love Nick Nash.
I think you go with Higgins here.
Yeah.
Also, another one that can be very Mike Evans like.
They could go offensive line too because they desperately need O-line help. I mean, we already took Higgins. Just seeing they could go Connerly. Yeah. They have to fill out the rest of the offense line, though.
Yeah.
All right. Rams. Feels like Jahad Campbell here or Will Johnson. Most likely.
I say Campbell.
Yeah.
Got a lot from Verse last year. If you can bring another guy in there that can kind of impact the game in many ways, I like Campbell. Also love to use him on College Football 25. What a guy. You go Campbell there.
Ravens interior offensive line help.
I can see Will Johnson.
You could. I think I could see Will Johnson going to Buffalo if he falls.
Yeah, that's another one, which, it's not a big need for Baltimore, but you probably want to go offensive line, just consider how much they run the ball and the efficiency. But best player on the board.
Yeah. If you're going BPA, it's Will Johnson. Should we make it the pick?
Yeah. Let's make the pick.
All right.
Let's make the pick. Well, dang! I just thought it just got Nate Wiggins. Best player on the board though. You might want to go Will Johnson. Yeah, it's too late now.
Yeah,
it's not that crazy.
I could see them going edge too. Maybe they take a flyer on Shamar Stewart
or Stewart. Yeah. Okay. Detroit needing receiver help. I don't think another receiver gets taken in this draft.
No, I don't think so either. Then you're starting to reach.
Yeah.
I could see them going edge help here personally.
Yeah.
Or let me see, is he or you could go don't love any linebackers. Bossa I'd like, but day 2. Yeah, I think you're looking at Jahad Campbell falls. I think Detroit could take him potentially. Could go best player available here. Edge. You know what it feels like? I feel like Shamar Stewart is a Lions pick.
Yeah, I can see that.
It feels like the Lions, they've taken some risks in the draft. Like even some people, remember they took Gibbs, people called it a reach.
Yeah.
Like I could see people calling this a reach and it working out. So we'll go Shamar Stewart. I could see them taking a risk on his athletic upside. Guy's a freak. Washington.
If the playoffs showed us one thing, it's Jaden Daniels needs more protection than he has. So do you go Simmons here?
Could go or just get interior help because they do have Laramie Tunsil. They added him. I could see them going a guard here. Maybe just to shore up the interior.
I think either one of those 2 picks, could be a potential.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go Booker. Right?
Yeah. I like that.
I think edge. Right. It feels like it's not a draft without the Bills taking an edge.
But is this post or pre Bosa though? When are based off of these needs, but if you wanted to pair James Pierce and Nick Bosa, I mean, that's actually I like that. Let's go if you're cool with that. I think you pairing James Pierce and Bosa together is not that crazy.
Yeah, and they've still got Rousseau, Epinesa. So why not? We'll go a little extra edge depth there. All right, Chiefs. I think you've got to get some offensive line help after watching the Super Bowl. Simmons, I think you go tackle here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the Eagles,
receivers, they need a guard, they need an edge, they need a corner. No more receivers really. Everything is a reach.
Yeah.
Don't love the guards.
It could go Donovan Izaruke.
Let's see what the corners are looking like. Even though I know they got DeJean and they got some guys over there. The Philly thing is to do something. Trey Amos is the one that actually has gotten a lot of love.
Yeah.
In the first round, but Do you go another corner?
That's a lot. DeJean. Well, Slay is gone now.
Yeah, Slay is gone. Are we reaching with Amos, or is that? Or do we go with the other Texas
really.
A&M edge?
I think you probably go edge. I mean, their corner's kind of. I mean, they lit up the Chiefs, but just seeing DeJean, obviously with that big pick.
Let's go edge. I agree with that.
All right, we'll go edge. Okay, analyzing your draft, grading your draft. All right, so they won't grade it if it's up full 7 round, but this is it, full mock draft here. Probably the only pick would maybe be Will Campbell, or not Will Campbell, Will Johnson, right?
Yeah,
that
we might have reached, but
change. Like if
we might have reached.
I could see a world where Buffalo goes Will Johnson and maybe Baltimore takes a Pierce or a Stewart, gets some more edge help. Other than that, though, I like this. I think it's solid.
I think it's solid. It's solid.
Top 3, pretty obvious. New England could go in a couple different spots. You want to go Membu, make the case for them to go Membu. That's fine. Will Campbell, you can make the case for them to go McMillan. Genty feels like pretty a lock.
Yeah.
Dallas comes away with Burden. Jets come away with Warren, so they get weapons. Yeah. Kind of a run on receivers here in the 20s, which isn't too surprising.
Oh, that's been the case the last few drafts.
Yeah.
Only thing which, might shake it up, again, Golden getting so much love. Is Golden actually wide receiver 1 or 2 taken off the board? Yeah. So do we potentially see Golden to Dallas at 12, maybe Burden fall a little later, like they switch spots?
Yeah. You could, and depending on how high Carolina is, does Carolina take Golden at 8? Yeah. And that could really shake things up. You got to love about the
draft. You literally never know, outside the top 5 maybe in this case. After that, it's kind of free game.
Yeah. And again, this is no trades in this one, obviously. So there could obviously be trades. I talked about it. I could see a team like Pittsburgh trading up, maybe Denver trading up. If Denver's in love with Genty, and let's say Genty falls past the Raiders and they want to move up with, I don't know, maybe if the Jets are willing to move all the way back. I've talked about, right, the Niners could be moving up. If, who knows, maybe I don't know if they're in love with like a Will Campbell and they want to move up and he falls, or even if Graham falls and they want to move up. You see a world where Dallas moves up for Genty?
To 6?
Probably not.
I don't know. They would have to give up so much. Probably not. I feel like if they were to move up at any point, it'll probably be to 10, kind of swapping with Chicago, because I don't think the Jets or Carolina go running back.
No. I would blow up if the Jets take Genty and trade Brees, because there's been talks of that, which is ridiculous.
Yep, with a potential with Dallas. So, something about that dart to Pittsburgh I really, really like.
Yeah, it just feels right.
Yeah, I like that.
Feels like he'll fit right in there.
And Tampa with Mike Green. Tampa's known to kind of seems like grab guys that you won't expect, and they just turn out to be great players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is solid. Like I said, maybe the 2 that could have probably went a little different is Higgins and Johnson, but Houston, I think the big thing with Houston is not having Tank Dell for quite some time, and then Diggs being gone. I mean,
you're down.
Who do you have?
Collins,
Nico, and Mechie, and yeah.
They need some help there. I could also see a world where they go Josh Simmons. Chiefs either way though in that spot, I think will take some sort of offensive lineman.
Yeah.
No matter how the board plays out. Who do you think is the biggest? Who do you think out of the players? Actually, probably Golden. Who do you think out of the players picked in the top 10 would fall the farthest?
Ward, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Graham, Genty, Warren. Well, probably Warren. If the Jets don't take him, he'll probably go to the Colts.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I agree. Probably would be Warren. Maybe Shadur. Like if New Orleans doesn't take him and he's there at 20, does the Steelers or 21 Steelers take him?
Possibility, yeah.
Maybe Will Campbell. Like, does he fall to 11? But that's not that far out of the top 10. Obviously, it's only one spot back. So, anyway, that's a mock draft. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Mock drafts are very controversial. Very. Get some people with some very firm opinions on mock drafts.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts?
Can't wait for the draft. That's it. We are close. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy your NBA playoff Sunday if you're a basketball fan, and we will catch you next week with some post-draft analysis.
Yes, definitely. We will see you next week, and thanks for watching.